We are live.
Cool. Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, we're back after it. After it's been a kind of an eventful week. We've had the Super Bowl, and then we've had the State of the Union. And boy, howdy, did both of those events create some social media storms on the different platforms.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I don't know. You know, it's funny because you're going to hear two different viewpoints here on this whole football thing. This is the second year in a row now that I have not watched NFL.
Right.
And it's mostly in support of our troops and law enforcement. That's why I do it. It's not anything other than the fact that these football players, for the most part, are disrespectful. And the way the NFL handle themselves, I won't support them. So, I mean, if you watch football, hey, that's cool. I get it. I'm not saying anything good or positive about you. I just know for me, I just decided I'm not doing it.
Right.
I'm done with it.
I think for me, it was I happened to be doing my whole tutorial graphics and doing stuff on my computer. I just wanted something off in the background. Not necessary, because I kept the volume off pretty much for the most part when the game was on. I might have turned it on if an interesting commercial came on that appeared to be funny. I definitely had it on when the halftime performance came on.
Oh, so the fireworks, that's where it started right there, wasn't it?
It started there. Yeah, I really didn't pay much attention to the fireworks before the game because there was, a whole lot of chatter on the different news reporting, both regular media and through the like ESPN and anybody reporting on sports is it's sort of an avenue for them to talk about the entertainment because it's related to a sporting event.
I don't know. I think they make a big deal about the entertainment because that's the only way that the entertainers get coverage
or
any kind of recognition. Because honestly, to me, they're musicians.
Yeah.
So they're no different than a court jester performing before the audience.
Yeah.
I'm not really, I can care less who stands on that stage at halftime because guess what? If I'm at the game, I'm probably standing in line to go take a leak, buy a beer, and get a hot dog. Don't really care about the music.
Yeah. Now, one of my buddies, I thought he had sort of the best response to just halftime performances in general, at least by today's standards, is he's like, hey, while the 2019 halftime show is going on, I'm going to turn YouTube on and I'm going to go watch the halftime performance of when Prince performed.
Oh, that was
and I was
best.
like, oh, you know what? That would be an entertaining show.
That's brilliant. That was one of the best halftime entertainments.
That one and Tom Petty, because those two are the most recent ones where I can actually say that was an awesome show. Even when Michael Jackson performed, it was still entertaining.
Yeah. Well, everybody's so political now. It used to be where people were just interested in their craft instead of the politics. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of just being oriented to some political cause, they would go out and perform. Now it's a cause.
Well, it's funny because when you look at all of the controversy that was surrounding the Super Bowl and Kaepernick and the performers talking about showing solidarity for his cause, and then at some point this conversation that people say had that all of the principles of this conversation would say didn't happen, but the non-story is the performers were told, you will not basically steal the show by putting on some sort of political event because we're here to play football.
So I got a question for you then. Okay, I'm going to give you three choices. You need to tell me who you think took the knee the best out of all history. So is it Tanya Harding? Monica Lewinsky or Colin Kaepernick?
I'm gonna. Well, since feminism is like a really big thing right now, then I'm gonna say it's a tie between Tanya and Monica.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give it to Tanya because she just brought it to her. It was an elaborate scheme. She's like, I'm taking out my competitor, and I don't care who's watching. That bitch is going down.
We have to give Nancy Kerrigan.
Oh yes,
at least
honorable mention.
Yes, because she did sort of take one for the team on that one.
I just wanted to pull that out really quick because I think that would have been a more interesting halftime show.
Yeah,
got to be honest with you, if they'd have brought those three out there.
Oh, that would have
for
been
an encore
hilarious.
reenactment of their moment in fame.
Who did it better?
Yeah.
So the thing about these performers, and there were several that were tapped to be performers, and some of them opted not to go, showing their solidarity. And that word is what I'm going to pay attention to.
Sure, solidarity.
Solidarity for the last 10 days or so has played a part not only in the Super Bowl, but it played sort of a part in like the whole State of the Union deal with those Congress members that were all dressed in white. They were like 80% in a Ku Klux Klan uniform. The only thing they were missing was the hoods.
I'm telling you, I don't. Go ahead. I'm just.
I don't know who their strategist was when they all decided that this is the attire that we're going to wear. This is the color, and this is how we're going to show this united front. Somebody had to know. I mean, even if you're the strategist that is the guy that says, hey, if anybody has anything bad to say, this is the most likely thing that they will say.
Right.
The fact that you had a bunch of powerful political figures, elected officials, show up to one of the lawmaking body house of the land, all dressed in white.
Well, I wonder if they asked their constituents if it was okay for them to do that.
Now, what would be funny is if each one of them had set up a website and said basically dress up your congressman.
There you go. Oh, that's funny. Well, I just noticed. So I didn't watch the entire State of the Union. I just watched parts of it. I will watch the rest of it. But the thing that got me was the confused look on Ocasio-Cortez's face when they were chanting USA, USA. I think it's because she didn't know what they were spelling.
Yes.
I think she had no clue what they were spelling.
They're singing a song, but I don't know the words.
I don't know the words. Because I really, the things that really discouraged me was when they had applause, overall applause, and then when they were talking about this isn't a socialist country, and the applause went the other way. It was a weird moment in history for me.
Funny you should say that because I didn't see the State of the Union from the beginning,
right? Because
I had sort of lost track of time working on other stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, the address is on, and because I don't have a TV set up in the room that I was working in, I was trying to see if I could find it being streamed somewhere, and lucky for me or unlucky for me, I went to do a quick search and went to the first big broadcast website that I found, which was NBC.
Right.
And I'm watching the address. I don't really pay attention to the news characters that are associated with that news organization or that channel. So I'm watching it, and I will say that there was a specific moment, even if it was sort of an empty moment, was where all of the chamber members in there, everybody's chanting USA, USA. That's kind of a moment of solidarity or union, okay? Which I thought that's a pretty powerful thing.
Yep.
That there is no party line when it comes to, cheering your own country on. But the moment Trump brought up the fact that, hey, we are not, nor have we ever been known as a socialist country, all of a sudden there's only clapping on one side. And I'm like, okay, so we can all chant USA, USA together, but the moment somebody brings up something about socialism and trying to keep out of our country, only half of the room, so to speak, will cheer to keep socialism out while the other side sits down.
Right.
That was
unnerving right there.
And the thing is it only carried weight if you watch the video. If you're listening to it like on radio, you don't get the context of what's going on. Right. That alone was a pretty powerful message for me.
Yeah,
for me.
The other part too is when Pelosi did that weird clap.
I missed that. I had to go back.
That was the most bizarre. I mean, right now the meme wars are just like firing off. It's unbelievable the memes that are running out there right now.
Feeding frenzy.
And I think that they could have shared a snow cone and we'd have had a meme war over that. I think what we're seeing is
that's true.
People are trying to make a lot out of nothing.
Uh-huh.
Although I really shouldn't say that it's nothing, because every action a public official takes after they've drawn in the sand and then crapped on that line carries weight.
Yes.
Okay, so subtle or not, it carries weight. And when I saw that, I was like, man, that lady's crazy. I don't get her. I don't understand, one, how the rest of her... Well, I know why the group let her do it, because nobody else wants to be up front of the cameras.
Right.
They'd rather do their stuff behind the scenes than put the crazy one that wants to talk up front of the camera. I got that. And I don't know. I was just... I thought for Trump, it was as good a speech as he'll ever give.
Yeah, because we had this conversation before we got on.
Right. And I think that the part I really liked was where he was talking about the protection of the wall. He says, where all of our richest senators and congressmen have walls to protect them, this country deserves that same thing, sort of paraphrasing in a way. And, and I agree with him. I really think that the momentum is really building up against their actions. I think the actions they took during the State of the Union did nothing but expose them for who they really are, which is a group of people that will stoop to no level. I mean, they'll stoop to the lowest level because they just believe that this should be a socialist country. And I'm a little concerned with that. That really has me bothered a little bit.
So, okay, so there were a lot of topics that he brought up in his address. And okay, so first, Trump will not go down in history as being a great speech giver or an orist.
Yeah, but he didn't use a teleprompter.
He did. I wouldn't even know that.
He did not use a teleprompter. He didn't have a lot of stuttering M's and ums in there.
Okay,
like the former guy did.
But when you mentioned, or he brought up the part about women in the workplace and the advancements that they've made. Yeah. Okay, so I have no issue with any of those things, because how I look at it is if somebody they've put in the hard work to get to where they are, whether it's through a job or they've reached some achievement. Whether you're a male or a female,
right? I'm
glad that you're going to reap the rewards for that kind of an accomplishment.
Right.
I don't see the difference, but I understand that as a female, when you've tried to strive for some sort of recognition in a society that was controlled by males.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the males were the people who were stepping up to run the society, and at the time, females were staying home.
Yeah, you're talking about the nurturer versus the hunter gatherer.
Yeah.
That definitely, times are definitely different. But I gotta be honest with you, that's almost what they're doing is not fair to the successful female executives and powerful women in the world today. And it's not fair. It's basically saying that there's just they've been like held in bondage for all these years. Hell, there's more women executives out there than we've ever had. I've worked for two that were some of the smartest people I've ever met. They were very fair, and I know they had to fight their way through the good old boys club. I get that, but it's not as bad as they're making it. I mean, when you sit there, I listened to a discussion the other day about racism. Okay. And these guys were they're black. Okay, and they're comedians / conservative spokespeople. You know who they are. And so
we don't want to say their name.
We don't want to say their name. No.
Why?
Okay, it's the Hodge brothers.
Hodge twins, man. I love those guys.
Hodge twins. And so they broke it down really simple for everybody. And it's just the fact that, look, this is how black people were raised. They were scarred by things that happened in the past, but they've gotten it wrong for so many years. And that, when they finally came out of the closet as conservatives, they took a lot of heat for it. Okay?
Right. Yes, they did.
But if you just give it a chance and listen to what they're trying to explain to people, it becomes very clear. It's that the divisiveness that's built into those conversations is all about control. It's all about control.
Yeah.
And they do the same thing with women. The same thing. I mean, you'll never convince me that a man is smarter than a woman and all women are smarter than men. I think we all have our own. We have our own fits.
We all have our own place.
There's a lot of men that are not going to change. It's just who they are. That's how they are. And same thing with women. But I think we're coming to an age where a lot of that's dying out. A lot of it's going away. Right. I mean, a lot of that. If you really want to blame things, let's blame Hollywood for projecting stereotypes on movies and TV shows.
You can actually say that those stereotypes succeeded because you continue to display them on television in your artistic representations of things that were going on.
And I'm not going to say it's right. I'm not going to say it's wrong. I'm not going to say it was divisive, because art imitates life. Okay, and as
there's always that struggle between which is,
and there's going to be an evolution. Okay, but here's the problem with what's fair being fair. There's also unfair.
Yes,
and you're always going to have injustice. It's because of who we are, okay? Doesn't mean we can't learn. Doesn't mean we can't progress and get better. The problem is the divisiveness, which goes back to that ego. You're going to hear me bring up ego all the time. When people have an ego and they feel they know more than you and they are incapable of learning from others, this is why you'll always have divisiveness.
Right.
I mean, if you left people alone and didn't stir the pot, they'd get along. They would find a way to get along. I've seen it happen too many times. Just watching this whole thing with the State of the Union, and I think that people speak to the pawns, in a sense. Like whatever's thrown out. So say you do an FAQ. Okay, what's the hot topic? Okay, it's going to be women's suffrage. It's going to be racism. It's going to be police brutality. It's going to be immigration. And so they all feel like they have to draft talking points to each one of these items. And so what ends up happening is now you get the rebuttal that speaks to each of those items. And this thing just exponentially multiplies into a thing.
Right.
And it's because we have a lot of people that sit around and talk, and very few people do anything about things. I don't know. I just get aggravated with it, the whole thing. Like I said, I watched State of the Union mostly out of curiosity and respect for The Office, because they made such a big deal about not having it.
Well, yeah, the whole delay.
Yeah.
And so I actually had to go look up, because I don't really keep track of when the address is supposed to happen annually, only to find out that, okay, the news currently is that you've got this argument going on between Pelosi and Trump delaying the address, and only to find out that, okay, historically this has happened in other times. Maybe the circumstances weren't the same,
right?
But it's not. There is no decided factor that says the address has to be delivered on such and such day.
So let me ask you, but it does have to be delivered.
Yes.
It is due to the people. So I'm going to ask you this question straight up, and it's going to be about the shutdown. Was what, 35 days.
Right.
Who do you think was the winner and the loser in that one between Pelosi and Trump?
Well, I think sort of the...
I know I put you on the spot. Sorry, but
I would probably. It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
I would probably say Trump was, only because
The winner?
no, the loser.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting.
Only because how I look at it is the one of his talking points for his candidacy
Right.
or when he came to office was sort of pushing to have this wall.
Well, he hasn't stepped away from it. So
so what I was going to bring up is, so the NBC, the network that I watched this thing on was kind of a talking point all on its own.
right.
So at the end of the address, I don't remember what this newscaster's name, Lester Holt.
Oh yeah, Lester Holt, right?
I fucking hate that dude.
Right.
So anyway, they put together this ad hoc panel at the end of the State of the Union, wanted to find out, okay, you Joe Schmo, regular American.
Like a town hall type thing.
Yeah, but there was tops, maybe 7 people there.
Right.
And, out of them, basically was the first question is thumbs up or thumbs down on what the president had to say. So out of the 6 or 7, there was like 2 or 3 thumbs up for what he had to say, and everybody else was like thumbs down. And they really didn't. They would give like very brief explanations as to why they thumbs down or thumbs up. Well, here's the telling one.
Yeah.
One of the ones that thumbs up was a woman, and she was a government employee on top of all this.
Right.
So she is somebody who works for the government, not drawing a paycheck, and doesn't really have a problem with what the president had to say.
Right.
So that had to play against whatever NBC, what their desired result of that town hall thing was supposed to be.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And I want to say the other 2 dissenting was one was a black man, and I know that demographics play a part in a lot of this too, and the other one was naturally an old white man.
Right. So I find it funny that in a country where we're all supposed to be equal, you have the left media drawing the lines between gender and race all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. So
shining a light on
it. They
Yeah.
do. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. But they make a point to have those people in position for that.
Sure.
So what I think on the government shutdown was, I think that the president is still attempting to get the wall built. He drove it home in his speech very well. Okay, he's like, look, this is the basic function of the president, it's safety of the country. These government officials have walls and guns to protect them. And so I think he's on track on that. I think that Pelosi was the loser, and her cause was the loser in the government shutdown, in the sense of there was not overwhelming support for her role in it. Okay? She's still the donkey's ass when it comes to political jokes.
Oh yeah. I definitely see your viewpoint on that.
Yeah. So what ends up happening here is that what he'll do is he ended it for the sake of the workers and the employees. He didn't think it was fair that they were going to take the hit because they're having this fight.
Right.
Okay. Dan Crenshaw made great. He's proposing a bill to where and this is not the only thing. Even Trump talked about doing this. To where, why are we paying congressmen during these shutdowns when we have government employees that deserve this money instead of them?
I know we had this conversation earlier because shortly after the shutdown, wasn't it when Pelosi was supposed to go do that junket overseas?
Yeah, that junket overseas, yeah.
So, yeah.
And there's even controversy around that. We're not going to get into that, of what was going on there. But yeah, so I mean, when you sit there and you look at this gamesmanship, and it's really sad, at the end of the day, the only people who are losing the American people.
Right.
We wouldn't put up with this kind of thing in our workplace. Okay? We just wouldn't. There's nobody that would put up with this kind of crap. You have a CEO that's in charge, which is the President of the United States. And you have all these subordinate offices underneath that office. You have the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches of government that are supposed to be functioning on behalf of the people. Okay? Not self-interest. And Pelosi made this a self-interest battle. Okay? She made it a self-interest battle. And honestly, she should be out of there. I don't know how she gets elected into that office every time, but she serves not the people of the United States of America.
And this, you're right. And my issue with just basically politicians in general, mostly are going to be Democrats,
right?
Is the accountability.
Sure.
Okay, so I don't care whether you have an R or a D after your name.
Right.
My issue with politicians, period, is that when you do something that appears to be questionable, the level of accountability that you can ask for, there's a limit.
Yes.
And I'm like, accountability is accountability. There is no line drawn in the sand where it stops being accountable. You either were all the way honest or you weren't.
Well, they lost track of who they are. Okay, they're citizens of the United States of America. Mm-hmm. Okay, we have a set of values and we have a set of rules called the Constitution, and they're clearly not being followed. What they continually do, it's like having that impetulant kid that will not go to bed at 8 o'clock because he's got to wake up at 5 o'clock to go to school in the morning.
Right.
Okay, he knows the rules. He knows what his responsibility is, but he's not going to do it. So that's a real problem for me. So at the end of the day, it's up to the citizens of the United States to hold these representatives. We don't work for them, they work for us. It's up to us to hold them responsible for their actions. And when they start acting like a bunch of little kids, we need to pull them out of class, spank their ass with the paddle,
remind them,
and put them back in detention and get them back in that classroom and get them to do our work for us. I'm just sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of all this television and radio time being tied up over trying to second guess what we know they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
They just need to do their damn job.